Okay, so the Eagles got an extension done with DeVonta Smith, and now we can all celebrate. But what's really so good about the deal? Plus, Philly brought in the most athletic cornerback in the class, while an exciting pass rusher is at the team facility today. Also, what game-changing decision did Howie Roseman make? And why are the Birds considering taking another pass catcher early? Let's talk about it, but first, let's run it. What's up, guys? We are back, or kind of, with the Eagles' voluntary offseason workout program starting back up yesterday as players arrived to the NovaCare complex to partake in Phase 1 of the offseason workout program. By the way, just in case you're wondering what Phase 1 actually consists of, it's essentially a time for players to partake in meetings, strength and conditioning work, and physical rehab. So yeah, just in case anyone was curious, no practices or serious on-field work yet. However, that didn't stop all the festivities, with some of the best photos being Saquon moving some serious weight, or being next to Jalen in the huddle. That's going to take a while for me to get used to. Although, how about this photo of your new center next to Landon Dickerson getting in some O-line work? For real, I'm going to be honest, I wasn't quite sure who that was when I first saw him, but I'd say Cam Jurgens has definitely slimmed up just a bit, which is really promising because he's going to kill it at his new position of center, and don't make me get into the comments and start arguing about all that. Another promising aspect was seeing safety Sidney Brown walking in for some work, after saying just a couple weeks ago that he's ahead of schedule with his ACL recovery, and I'd say so seeing that he's only wearing a sleeve at this point. Yet the best news from yesterday, and quite possibly the entire offseason, is that DeVonta Smith is officially extended until 2028, after the 25-year-old wideout inked an extension worth $75 million for 3 years, ultimately making this deal the equivalent of a 5-year signing for $97 million.
Spent a lot of dough. Wow.
I mean, yeah, it is, but considering that Calvin Ridley, who's 29, got a 4-year deal for $92 million with Tennessee, this is a phenomenal masterclass by Howie. Also, shout out to Pro Football Network's Anthony DeBona for accurately predicting the financials on this move.
Howie Roseman has always tried to stay ahead of the market and kind of reward guys earlier than other teams. And wide receiver has basically become the new quarterback position where whoever gets paid next is going to get paid the most. So he'll likely want to get Smith's extension done before the draft, hopefully, kind of like what they did with Jalen Hurts. And then we saw all those other quarterbacks get paid. So, I mean, I would expect Smitty to get probably 25 to 26 million per year around there.
Not too shabby, but how are y'all feeling about this move? Personally, I'm ecstatic. So you know what? Let's give away a DeVonta Smith jersey. All you got to do is go ahead and hit that like button, and then after that, go to the comment section and type in Slim Reaper. Bonus points for members using the Slim Reaper emoji. Seriously though, all you got to do is go and type in Slim Reaper, and then I will give away one jersey to a lucky winner via the randomized spinner on my Friday night live stream. I'm telling you, I mean, this is such a good move because not only has Smitty averaged 80 catches for over 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns each season since entering the league, but this is the same dude who became a team captain for his hard work and character both on and off the field. Plus, let's not forget the versatility that DeVonta brings. Like, even though we didn't get to see it last year and haven't quite seen him used like he was at Bama, Smitty can line up all over the field, and you'd better believe we're about to see it in the Kellen offense. Of course, some would like you to believe that this may not be such a good thing after all, with Andrew Brandt sharing the Eagles now become just the second team in NFL history to have 2 wide receivers making over $20 million a year, with the first being the LA Chargers in Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, who, for the record, yes, I know are no longer there, but this is not the same situation. Look, as I've said for weeks, Howie Roseman needed to and did get out in front of the plethora of wide receiver contracts that still need to get done. And by doing so, plus with owner Jeffrey Lurie's willingness to pay upfront in bonuses, it's not really going to be an issue. Which is why I'm totally on board with Greg Rosenthal, who stated, teams like the Eagles get their guys done a year early. Mailata, Dickerson, and now DeVonta, while teams like the Cowboys and Jags wait until the day the assignment is due.
If you ain't first, you're last.
It's comical, really, and almost sad, except, well, it's Dallas. With Adam Schefter providing an update that Dallas wide receiver CeeDee Lamb isn't expected to attend the voluntary offseason program because of being upset about his contract. Although my personal favorite takeaways from the Smitty move was seeing Cowboys content creators be fed up with their GM. As J-Tuck said, Smitty was in the same draft as Micah, but drafted after CeeDee. Yet their quarterback got paid and they paid A.J. Brown. But there's still Cowboys fans who believe we can't make moves because of Dak. Or maybe the better one was the Eagles have paid 19 players and the Cowboys can't just pay their quarterback. If Stephen Jones isn't good at being GM, he should just say that.
But I'm going to be honest with you. I have no clue what I'm doing.
Alright, fine. Obviously, no one's perfect. And we've seen, sure, an egregious mistake or two, but it is reassuring to see that not only does Dallas have wide receiver issues, but the 49ers do as well, with Brandon Ayuk requesting a trade to get out of the Bay Area. Oddly enough, the Steelers, Giants, and Cowboys reportedly have interest. Anyway, curious to know what y'all think about all this, so let me know in the comments. Oh, but let's not get into the whole AJ's gonna be upset that he's being paid the same amount as Smitty, or this ruins the whole Swole Batman era or the Eagles as a whole. Because sorry, after hearing a number of times from AJ, I'm honestly not concerned this is gonna create a cancer inside that locker room. Although Zach Berman does believe there's an increased likelihood the Eagles take a pass catcher early in the draft after this move. Writing, the Eagles have a window with these two receivers, Saquon Barkley and Dallas Goedert, as their top skill players for the next season or two. Barkley's contract is not guaranteed beyond 2025. Goddard's contract is up after 2025. By that point, the Eagles' offense will look very different. The Eagles must capitalize on this window on offense in 2024 and 2025. And then also went on to say, this is also why I'd consider a wide receiver or tight end early in the draft. The Eagles could use a cost-controlled third wide receiver, and there's a chance that player could take on a larger role by the second or third year of his contract. Alright, so the question is, if they were to do that, would that be a wide receiver or a tight end? Perhaps Texas's Jatavion Sanders, since Andrew DeCecco reported that Philly held a Zoom call with him yesterday, and there's increasing speculation that Goddard's eventual replacement could be in play. I mean, he wouldn't be the worst option, since Sanders ran a 4.69 40 time at 6'4", 245 pounds, and has an NFL comparison profile to Cleveland's David Njoku, as Lance Zierlein has his potential somewhere in the second or third round due to his exciting ability as a pass catcher. However, on the flip side, he's not the best blocker and can be very inconsistent, but the hope would be, I guess, you can coach him up in that area. Although as I say that, and the more that I think about it, we have kind of that type of prospect with tons of potential in the passing game, just nothing to speak of when it comes to blocking in Alberto. So I don't know about that one. But I will say for a receiver that my most realistic choice would be getting Florida's Ricky Pearsall. Sure, there's other options like South Carolina's Xavier Legette or Florida State's Johnny Wilson, which I talked about in a previous video for the pros and cons if you want to check it out. At the same time, I get it if you're saying there ain't no way Howie Roseman's going to take a wide receiver that early. Yet I would argue it's actually somewhat likely because Howie clearly made a shift this offseason. And one that has Reuben Frank explaining how the Birds GM effectively draft-proofed the roster thanks to all the moves throughout free agency, saying Roseman is not in a position where he has to add any certain position. He's already added either a big or little piece at every spot on the field, and that allows him to go into the draft without having to reach for anything. Signing Parker and Campbell doesn't mean he won't draft a receiver, and signing Huff doesn't mean he won't draft an edge. It just means he doesn't have to. It's a healthy place to be going into a draft with 3 of the first 53 players for the first time in 30 years. I'm on board with most of that, although I still argue you kind of need a corner and a right guard. However, I still subscribe to the notion of draft the best player available. So who should that be for Philly, with every outlet seeming to have a different suggestion these days? Of course, like we know, those top 30 visits are very important and very telling. So I wouldn't discount a potential trade up for Laiatu Latu, since the draft's best pure pass rusher is in Philly today to visit with the Eagles, because this dude from UCLA is without a doubt dominant, with Jim Nagy saying Laiatu is the most NFL-ready rush game I've seen in years and that he'll make an immediate impact on sub downs for any team that takes him. Remember, this is also the guy who has the best true pass set win rate over the last 10 years. Now, obviously with his medical history, it does make sense that Philly would bring him in to have their doctors take a look at him, but the interest in pass rusher is without a doubt there, since the Eagles also had D-line coach Jeremiah Washburn travel to Colorado last week for a private workout with who I'm calling the steal of the NFL draft in Mohamed Kamara. And like Anthony pointed out, seeing a guy with great athleticism and production, but being doubted for his lack of height and arm length like BG, would make for a great mentor in BG's final season. Anyway, speaking of visits, I should also mention the Kentucky cornerback Andrew Phillips had a great visit at the NovaCare complex over the weekend with the Eagles, adding to the growing list of corners that Howie's brought in. Again, in case you're not familiar, Phillips is a 6', 187-pound corner who ran a 4.48 at the combine, and is also described by Lance Zierlein as a guy with a lot of unknowns, citing a number of completions given up and lucky drops from opposing receivers. However, he's a ridiculous athlete, with Zierlein saying he's got the tools to suggest his best football is ahead of him, and NFL draft analyst Dane Brugler couldn't be higher on him.
Andrew Phillips, a corner from Kentucky, who I don't know why doesn't get enough love. Right, he's not the biggest guy, 5'10", 3/4, 190 pounds. 4'4" athlete. didn't have a ton of ball production. I think that's why maybe not a lot of people are high on him, but he's always in position. He stays in phase. He competes. Roger McCreary from Auburn, who was a second rounder a few years ago, I think that's a pretty good comp for him. So Andrew Phillips from Kentucky, I think I'm much higher on him than I think most people are, and I think he's going to be a really solid pro.
For what it's worth, Phillips seems to be in the third round range. However, given the recent momentum, it kind of feels like the second round might be possible. Now, another cornerback who visited Philly, yet not exactly projected that high, is Mississippi State's DeCamarion Richardson. Don't worry, if you're not quite familiar, then I'll fill you in. Because this dude is the most athletic cornerback in the class, or at least according to Next Gen he is, since the 23-year-old ran a 4.3 440 despite being 6'2", 190 pounds. So yeah, not surprising to see multiple scouting reports call him a physical freak and an athletic anomaly. Unfortunately, athleticism can only get you so far, which is why Richardson is projected to be a late day 3 pick, thanks to his below average lateral transitions, anticipation, and overall coverage skills. Now, naturally, I had to go back and watch some tape to get acquainted, and while I'd agree with the general consensus, personally I wouldn't mind Howie taking a flyer late or definitely bringing him in as a UDFA if he wasn't drafted. Although yeah, with him being the most athletic corner, he's bound to get drafted just based on his potential and athleticism. Anyway, let me know what y'all's thoughts are on him. Hit that like button and gonna be giving away that Smitty jersey on Friday. Until next time, this has been the Philly Special.